Welcome to the Blue Ocean Solutions podcast, everybody, where we feature conversations with innovators and business leaders driving progress in clean tech, construction, and the renewable energy sectors. Our guest today is business owner Matt Sweetwood from the company Greener Process. Today, we're going to discuss his technology systems and how they capture emissions from their maritime and industrial sectors. Welcome to the podcast, Matt. How are you doing today?
I am thrilled to be here with you and discuss lots of good blue and green things today.
Perfect. For our audience, why don't you introduce yourself and also your company and the great work that you guys are doing?
Sure. So despite my youthful appearance, I have a long experience in business and running companies. I ran an electronics company and a big retail electronics superstore for many, many years. And I had the good fortune to exit that business, so I'd say about 10 years ago. And then in that journey, when you exit a business, I was kind of on top of the business, big man in the industry, got the trophy for the industry person of the year and all of that silly stuff that you get that actually don't even know where it is right now, that trophy. But, it was an opportunity in an advanced part of my career to reinvent myself. So I found myself out there consulting companies also within that business, and then looking for new opportunities just to do something new. And along the way, through a very interesting set of circumstances, I ended up with, at that time I called it an environmental company, which I had absolutely no experience in, but it was a company that had an interesting invention and an opportunity to implement that invention in Europe. And the company was basically two guys who had just created this invention and were about to get run over by a multinational company in Italy. And they're like, I think we need a real company and we probably should file a patent and we should probably have a company and make agreements with this, but we're engineers and we have no idea how to do this. And this was a person who had worked for me in a previous thing. He called me one day and said, my dad has this invention and the whole bit. I said, okay, I took a look at it. The invention was pretty spectacular from my perspective. I dug in a little bit. And now we're sitting here about 4 years later. We have 6 patents. Our European patent just crossed the finish line. And we've been in places all over the United States and in Europe, quoting our product and trying to get it installed and trying to get our first system in place. So we're really excited about where we went as the company. Now, the technology, right? What is the technology? I sort of set that up. As you notice that we built some suspense with that. So said in the most simple fashion is we have patented technology which caps smokestacks. What does that mean? So if you think of an ocean-going ship in port, an ocean-going ship in port can put out as much pollution as 20,000 cars without catalytic converters. For those people in Europe and in port cities like here in Los Angeles, the Port of Los Angeles or the Port of Palm Beach, they have areas out there they call the diesel death zone, and that's simply a result of the massive amounts of pollution that comes out of ocean-going ships. And obviously, ocean-going ships are a long ways away from having alternative fuels or nuclear power or whatever it is. And there's literally 100,000 ships on the water running the entire world and the economy. We have technology that can actually cap the smokestack on that ship when it's in port and essentially be 98 to 100% effective at reducing pollution. Our technology also works in industry. So if you think of a glass factory or an aluminum factory, a steel factory, a food factory, any kind of factory like that across the United States, there are open stacks all over the place that just billow crazy amounts of fumes and pollution into the air. Everything from diesel particulate to heavy metals to SOx, NOx, volatile organic compounds, and so on. Our system cleans that. In the case of the stationary systems in industrial use, if depending on the nature of the smokestack, we can capture CO2. If there's a place to actually put it, we can actually get to that, why that's quite difficult. But most importantly, we can generate electricity off of the smokestack. And that electricity can provide a payback on the systems and obviously is a very good use of the energy. You can capture sometimes 40, 50, 60% of the energy that's just sent up into the atmosphere and recycle it in terms of electricity. So our patents really center around our ability to make a hermetic seal on the smokestack, and that provides the efficiency in the system. So that's where we stand right now. We're very proud of what we've done. That's been a very interesting journey for me personally to bring it back, because I was selling cameras and electronics for most of my life. and now I'm capping ship smokestacks. So life is a journey, as they say. Cheers to that.
Very much indeed. When I first talked to you, the visualization, and I think a lot of our audience will be able to see this too, is when you've watched TV or any show and you're going through an industrial wasteland, and there's smokestacks and there's pollution and there's like this is the edge of the world where we've really failed in our,
Exactly, right, that's right.
industrial
Something went wrong,
revolution.
right? Something went wrong.
Something went wrong, and then when I spoke to you, that visualization, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, there's someone that's invented something that basically comes along, we're gonna put something on that cap, and we're gonna clean it all up. Oh, and by the way, we're also gonna produce electricity from it as well." I just saw this as being such a disruptive technology inside this industry and a major solution in multiple categories. I'd love to hear more of where your company's right at. Like, how big is it? What are your movement into the marketplace looking like? How are the initial conversations happening with potential clients and the feedback? What's that all taking it to the marketplace process at right now for you guys?
Yeah, so coming from the business that I came in where, sales are relatively small, you're in a business now where you have a large CapEx. A system of ours can be from $1 million to 10 or $20 million, depending on the nature of the system. And the interesting thing I found in walking into this industry is that for the last multiple years, I don't know how many years you want to go back, you would think that companies would be heavily focused on improving their environmental footprint. They certainly publicly talk about this all the time. And they take steps and they put green things all over their logoing, and we're this and we're that and think. But then when it comes down to spending money and actually doing this, only thing that tends to motivate companies that do that is regulation. So in the shipping industry in particular, I will quote a not to be named port manager of one of the very large ports here in the United States, who said to me, even if they had regulation put in place, nobody's stopping my port. My port brings in 3/4 of the fuel oil that comes into this state. So I don't know. It's not my problem. They pollute. It's not really a big deal. Whatever. I don't like it. Do I wish? It's not saying he wishes for pollution. So I have found that this is a major obstacle. Now, we had 4 years of what was considered an environmentally friendly administration in the Biden administration here in the United States. But I'm going to tell you that other than setting money aside, which went to political friends, there was really very little, if none, no regulation put in place and no real requirement for industry to cut down on air pollution. So despite all of that, the companies really don't like to move unless they're forced. I'll give you an amazing example. We walked into, this is not in maritime, this is in a land-based system. We walked into an aluminum smelter. They actually melt. The way you make aluminum is you take a whole bunch of metals I'm oversimplifying. You take a whole bunch of metals and you throw it in a hot fire and they kind of come together and you end up with aluminum. Well, they run furnaces at hundreds and hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit. They have smokestacks which open up into the air. And we went to one company, relatively small company in this industry, who had burnt their roof down. Their smokestack was designed improperly. They contaminated their employees and people in the area. They melted their roof, and we could not get them to invest in our system. They said that we need to spend our money and we're going to fix this and fix that. We're an engineering company. That's really the focus of our company. We're technology and engineering. That's how we have so many patents and so much technology. We actually gave them a fix for their smokestack and they didn't want to invest in it. So I find that one of the biggest obstacles we have is that even with an electric payback of a year, 2 years, 3 years, companies just don't want to make the CapEx investment into something they're not sure of is ultimately going to generate revenue for them. And the environmental benefit is not good enough for them because they're going to pay $10 million for a system that will clean the environment over the next number of years. And that number just comes right off their books in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. And they just don't want it. The guys running the company don't want it. So there's a lot of obstacle from the financing perspective and from a lack of regulation perspective. And it gets in the way of us really installing the systems, which are essentially necessary to reduce the amount of air pollution in the world.
Wow, that's really incredible. So you're suggesting that there's a massive reluctance by these owners of factories and ports because they don't want to change because they are not seeing it will affect their bottom line today and they're not worried about recouping or even being profitable from this in the future. So with your explanation, there seems like there is a return on investment for all of these companies though. Could you
There is.
dive a little bit more into like what those numbers look like through your data, what that suggests?
Yeah, so we see typically, realistically, a 2 to 5 year payback on the systems, and then they're just generating money because you're generating electricity, assuming the price of electricity continues to go up, which it may not actually, with the advent of nuclear power and the AI data centers and so on. The power supply will definitely be enhanced, but for the near future, the cost of electricity will continue to go up, and there is a revenue stream in that. But I'm just telling you, we have new technology. This is one of those things where if we could get 4 or 5 systems installed, then the industry will follow. So our biggest issue is actually getting those first couple of systems put into place. I think that once we do that, the obstacle will go, but we're like, we don't want to be the first. We don't want to be this. So the company, to sort of answer your question of where the company is we're working hard right now on trying to find a location for a good pilot, to find some funding, like maybe even some government funding or research funding to get put into a place where we can install one of our systems and then demonstrate how it works. I think for us, that would really be a turning point for our company, to sort of not have a company be the first.
No, I understand. Given how significant that this technology impact could be on the industry and establishing a pilot project to really like drive this forward, that seems to be, of course, would be the priority for you guys. So what are you actively doing right now to get that outreach, have those conversations, ships potential? What does that all look like to make that happen?
Right. So we have several different organizations working on it, working on us right now. They've only started, a few months ago, trying to find us the location of where we would put a pilot that we can provide. We have enough contacts and made enough contacts with companies and places to do that. We're looking for really the proper kind of financing to put in place to do that. Basically, someone pay for a system. We'll put it in place. The person who pays for it can get the return on the investment. We'll find a place that we can actually generate electricity off of and make it go. So we're really working on that right now. We're also speaking to companies that build things in ports, that maintain ports, that build furnace systems in companies, and looking to partner with them and maybe license our technology for them so that when smokestacks get built. See, now, one of the good things about the current administration is that there is definitely a press to open more manufacturing here. So with that press, we feel like there might be an opportunity when new manufacturing goes in place to actually have our systems built right in from the start.
It makes total sense. I think it's one thing trying to get a business that's already been established and people are kind of cemented in their ways of moving forward, but brand new businesses that are starting and projects, they can take all the advantages of the current trends and utilize them from day one. So, speaking about trends, what trends do you see in the industry that are supporting this movement or even working against it? The pros and the cons there.
Okay, that's a great question. So the things that are moving against it, and ironically, in a way, they'll be for moving for it, is that the a lot of the green industry, I'll call it just the green industry. In the ocean, we call it the blue industry. But let me just we'll call it aqua. The aqua industry, mix a little blue and green together, was a political movement. And that political movement, unfortunately, did not have a lot of basis in science and reality. And you're talking to somebody who was in a company. So when that political force got pushed aside, there was no actual real scientific momentum. It's sort of like it went from global warming to climate change. I'm not saying it's yes or no. I'm not arguing whether it's true. I'm not. That's not the point. Is that you have administration, and this is worldwide, which has taken the spotlight off of this. If you notice in the vehicle world, The companies are not producing they're scrapping plants to do electric vehicles. The penalties and the bonuses for electric vehicles are going away. So their spotlight is going off of a number one focus on environmental issues and more onto trade. Now, on the positive side, the thing that really hurt us in the industry for the first 3 or 4 years is I would go to shows where I would try to introduce our technology. And I would be like a pariah because our technology is not electric technology. We're looking to take fossil fuels and make them clean and efficient. And there was a substantial period of time where that made me the devil. It's like, we need to do away with fossil fuels. But now the movement, the spotlight away from just number one environmental focus to drill, baby, drill is actually works in our favor because, hey, now we have a really good clean solution. If you're burning diesel fuel, you're burning coal, you're doing whatever, which has to happen. You believe me, you're not melting aluminum or glass with an electric furnace. This is not happening. Okay. You're doing it with a fossil fuel, fired plant, usually coal. Okay. So this push into this industry, I'm hoping will carry as new places come into place. So I believe that we're like on the backside of the wave that will go in our favor. The wave
Think
was
you're reading
simply because it wasn't politically correct to invest in a technology that continued the use of fossil fuels. I'm saying it better this time. Now we have a technology which works, and fossil fuels are no longer the bad guy, and at least for the next few years.
I think you're reading the room correctly. Having spoke to other business owners, they feel very favorable about the manufacturing conversation coming back into the United States, and they really see certain industries are going to really benefit from that, particularly oil and gas. But I also have friends in the mining industry, and they're starting to see like, hey, there potentially could be this revolutionary impact of investment on U.S. soil that allows a lot of companies to open up and move in great direction. So it seems like you're also potentially could be part of that solution. Talking also about trends and emerging technologies, how does something like AI influence you and your work?
I think because we're an engineering company, AI just aids us in our engineering and design. One of our systems use a robotic arm to actually place, like in a maritime situation, our system. And if you go to Greener Process Systems, go to greenerprocess.com, our website, you'll see one of our systems. It sits on a barge, pulls up next to a ship in dock, and uses a robotic arm. AI actually, there's artificial intelligence in how it actually attaches on there, and obviously we use it in our design features. So obviously, like any company, it actually incorporates into there. You can use AI also to predict sort of the efficiency of systems and so on. But once again,
Excellent.
for us, it's a tool. AI, like for many industries, will be a tool in actually how we produce what we produce.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about making physical stuff, AI is going to help human intelligence go make physical stuff. It cannot replace that process, right? It's not
Yeah,
softwares on its own.
yeah. No, the AI can't carry a wrench, as they say, and right.
Very
Doesn't
true.
tighten bolts. It doesn't tighten bolts very well, but maybe someday it'll be in a robot that tightens the bolts. Okay, maybe.
So as we look kind of moving forward, what's working really well in your business today?
I think what's working really well is the gravitas that we have gotten with our patents. So when people on the technical side really go into in the depths of our patents, they're very business strong. In other words, the patents cover wide areas. So from a investment and monetary perspective, they're really good patents. I mean, you can have a patent and the patent could really have very little commercial value. Our patents have very strong commercial value, and we also get, wow, that's an amazing idea. Wow, really, and well implemented. And our patents are layered on top of each other. So the first patent is sort of a specific patent. The next one gets a little wider, and the next one gets a little wider. And our last patent actually very much matches the commercial product. So I'm giving you that's a little bit of inside ball. But when you go and you're actually looking to get investment in the company, these are extremely powerful weapons that you have at your disposal. You look like you know what you're doing, and it looks like you have something of value.
Yeah, it sounded like you just explained the patent stack for yourself and everything's
That's right.
in the right
Exactly.
order,
Where
which is great.
we have families of patents. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
Perfect. And then on the flip side of that, so that's what's working really well. What are some of the challenges or the bottlenecks that you guys are
We
experiencing?
have a singular challenge, really, a singular challenge of significance, and that's to really to get a really good pilot system in place. That for us is where it really at. If I can get a pilot, one or two or three pilots in place, I'll take one. It'll change everything. I'll walk back into other places that said, show us it working, and we'll be able to start putting it in place. And then once you get a few systems in place, if aluminum plant A has the system in place, their competitor, aluminum plant B, is going to want the system.
So let's dive a little deeper into that. If that's the main obstacle, what does your ideal client then look like?
Just from an industry perspective, our favorite client probably is a glass factory, simply because it runs 24/7. You can't turn off a glass factory where it just all hardens up on you and goes to hell. And they produce a lot of, for us, and I don't want to be geek out on you, but the the higher the pressure, the more efficiency, the more run rate on a stack, the better result I can get. Like, I know with a good glass factory, I'm going to generate a ton of electricity. We're going to really get clean air coming out of there and so on. So for me, that kind of excites me. But certainly any kind of manufacturing factory like that is really great for us. On land, there's less regulation. Like when you want to put a system in a port, okay, you want to talk about an obstacle? The port has to agree. The carriers that come into the port, the ships have to agree. The Coast Guard has to agree. Okay. The security state has to agree. You have immigrations enforcement has to agree. Make sure you're not doing anything. You have local and city governments that have, so it's a whole the Coast Guard gets involved. You have to have a whole conglomeration of approvals. If I go out to like the middle of Kentucky and there's a plant, nobody cares. You do anything you want. The mayor's son is, the mayor's brother is running the plant. Okay.
I can see that just the obstacles that you have regulatory on the coastlines are
Yeah.
going to be probably not where the first pilots land, right? That's going to
That's
be
right.
it.
So I will tell you what pushed me into the company initially is we had the opportunity to put a system in a port in Italy. And there was actually almost 10 million euros set aside to do it. And this project took 3 years with 3.5 years with a public private partnership. We won the bid for it. And then years and years of politics in Italy. The port had the money. We were the chosen one. They just killed it. Politics just got in the way. They got into infighting. And our pilot project, in the most amazing project in the most amazing place in Italy, got killed by red tape in a socialist country.
I'm
I can't
sorry
tell
to
you
hear
how
that.
disappointing that was for us. We worked so hard. We had a big partner company in Italy that we worked with on this. The port was ready. I don't need to get into the details of it, but we had money from something called the Green Ports Initiative of the European Union. The Italian Ministry of the Environment had actually requisitioned the money. They actually sent it to the port, and then internal politics, they just wiped away the entire project. And in the most embarrassing moment, they had to return the money.
Do you, based on that and your experience of trying to get pilots then underway, do you see a more favorable climate in North America, Europe, or some other place on the planet in order to move faster through the regulatory?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's unclear. So Europe is much more up on these environmental things. They really like the idea of cleaning the ports. They also have a much bigger problem because in Europe the ports are in the city. They come into the cities, and they have areas around the ports that are uninhabitable. And they're also more environmentally oriented still in Europe. On the other hand, they basically do not allow any startup to function normally out there. So it's extremely hard. We tried very hard to get money and resources in all sorts of places. We have a wholly owned European subsidiary too. So I have Greener Process Systems SRL. We can operate in Europe and operate there. In the United States, we've shifted our initial focus away from the ports for all of the reasons that I mentioned. It's very difficult to get an initial project. So what we're really focused on is picking an industry, one of these industries that I talked about, and really getting some private investment into actually building a pilot. And I believe that's where we're most likely to succeed. Whether whether we build it or not, because remember, we're happy to license that technology to a factory builder,
That makes
right?
sense. So
That's
when
good
you
enough,
say,
right? That's good enough. Greener doesn't have to build the system. It just needs to be our system, our technology, and somebody else can build it. That's fine.
so do you think this partnership, like to get a first one off the bat, would you
Mhm.
say it would either be a factory that's like going to invest and we want to bring this on, or you find a partner who's got money and says, let's approach a factory and pay for it. I just want to see it working.
I
And then
have
from there,
both.
we move on.
Yeah, very, very astute. I have both on the table out there trying to do that. Both. Yeah, why
Which
not
one do
try
you,
both?
yeah, which one do you think is going to be more favorable, produce the results that you're looking for?
I think that it's going to be some private investment that's going to say, let's find a client, let's put it in. I want to own part of this company, or I want to own part of the line, and I want do it, build it. Let's build it. Let's build it and show everybody what we can do.
For what
Because
it's
if you
worth,
think
that's
about it,
the,
the investment is not large. We can pick a medium-sized system that's, let's say, $4 or $5 million and produce some like amazing results with producing electricity and cleaning the air and stuff like that. It can be very impressive.
the sense I get is that could be where you'll strike gold. Have a partner come on being like, let's pay for this. I want to see this up and going because I see a bigger picture. Like you, the visionary here, talking about then vision, where do you see you guys in 1 year from now, maybe 3 and 5? And what needs to happen to get you there?
Okay, in 1 year from now, God willing, we will be testing our first system, our first pilot. So it will be up and running, and we will be monitoring it and gathering the data off of it so that we actually then can use that to sell other systems. In 3 to 5 years from now, we're not going to be building anything. We're just going to be licensing our technology out to other companies that build all of this stuff and providing engineering, research and development, and sort of product update support on what we're doing. That would be where we would see. We want to be engineering technology company. That's it. I'm not, even though I'm very handy around the house with tools, not interested in building anything. We're a small company. We're a bunch of engineers and business people. We're not construction company. Though we can construct, we know how to do it as sort of from an architect's perspective. Imagine, that's how I would envision us, is we're the architects, but also providing the technology.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of entrepreneurs do themselves really well by understanding their lane and what they're capable of, and then finding the right add-ons, partnerships to build out the full scale of what they want to accomplish. So
That's
that
what we
makes a
had
lot of
done. That's
sense.
what we had done in Italy. So we had all the engineering done, and we actually reached out to other companies to help us with the build part.
Okay, Matt, as we move towards the end of the show, I want to ask you this question. It's kind of a little bit more bigger, visionary, maybe outside of your primary business. But what do you see as the blue ocean opportunity right now in the renewable energy sector from here over the next 5, 10 years?
I think that it's clear that there is going to be a push for alternative fuels for the shipping industry, which is really the primary, the big money maker out there. I think you're going to see electrification. Hopefully, you'll see our systems put into place. But I think going forward, you're definitely going to see attempts to reduce the amounts of pollution and impact on the environment in the blue space. I don't think there's any doubt about that. If you look even in the cruise ship industry, all of the cruise ship companies have money, right? So in all of those industries, they're electrifying the ships. They're trying to reduce their impact, in the oceans. So I think that from in my area, from an air pollution perspective, I think you're going to see over the next 5, 10, 20 years, constant improvement in the nature of even if there aren't new technologies. Right now, you're sitting with tens of thousands of freighters that are 20 and 30 years old and 40 years old that carry freight. Those ships will eventually go out. And obviously, even if they're new diesel powered ships, they're going to be way more efficient, less polluting than the ships that there were in the past. So I think that you're in the right area. I definitely think that there's going to be a continued push in that area for a better environmental impact. It'll just be a nice continuous thing unless some crazy disruptive, somebody develops a basketball-sized nuclear reactor and they put it in the ships and everything goes and then life is great.
That provides a really great insight, very unique. And I hope we do also see the basketball solution come along because no doubt there will be major surprises that will catch all of us off guard in the next 10, 20 years when it comes to energy efficiency and what's being able to be created. But I think your unique insight there, yes, I hope we continue to move fast forward in those areas. Matt, I've really enjoyed having you on the podcast today. I know our audience has probably gotten a lot of great value learning about your incredible new technology. And I'm sure I speak not only for myself, but the audience and hoping that you guys really are able to get this into the marketplace and start making a huge impact.
I really appreciate that, by the way. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Before you go, let's make sure the audience has all of your contact information. They know where to find you and reach out if they want more information or they want to talk to you about your project.
Sure. So you can go to greenerprocess.com, greener process spelled just like it sounds. You can reach me. I am on social media everywhere. I am at M Sweetwood. First initial, last name, everywhere on X, on Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere you can get me. I'm a big social media user. Happy to talk to, and if any of your audience reach out to me, I reply to everybody. I have a little ADHD, so I'm replying from early in the morning till late at night. People think I never sleep, there's some truth to that. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, I answer to anybody questions, anything that somebody wants to reach out to me for, I'm happy to talk about.
Well, I'm sure that's why you've been so successful over your career in business, and hopefully it will continue with this new endeavor. To my audience, if you've enjoyed the conversation, of course, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, maybe share it with a friend. And all of the show notes, all of Matt's links will be in the show notes. And we look forward to seeing you all in the next Blue Ocean Solutions podcast. Take care, everybody.